I'd like to start with a roll call. So I'm here, Caroline Obrecht. I'm the vice chair of the commission, and I'm standing in for Kimmy Marthers, who could not be with us tonight. And could each of you in turn introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Betsy Beach, and I'm the secretary of the commission.
Hi, I'm Brett Hayes. I'm the treasurer and commissioner.
Hi, I'm Tina Nelson. I'm also a commissioner.
I'm Tim Riker, and I'm a commissioner.
Okay. And our interpreters
sorry.
tonight?
I'm Drew
Oh,
Baldwin, and I'm a commissioner.
Sorry, Drew. Our interpreters tonight are Joan Watman and Kendra Timko. Long name. Sorry,
Huck
Thank you.
Keppel.
Huck Keppel. Thank you very much. Okay, sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so I think that's everyone, except that would we like the public to be able to introduce themselves as to who they are? Ernest, would you like that?
Ernest's computer is still restarting.
And Caroline, this is one of the interpreters, Joan Watman. We also have Joe Toledo interpreting and Rose Burleson. We have a team of 4.
Thank you very much. Are Joe and Rose CDIs or?
Joe is a deaf interpreter and Rose is an ASL interpreter.
Thank you. Okay, well, we're still waiting for Ernest.
Oh, we will. Carolyn, this is Tina. I don't think we usually have the public introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you. Well, then we will move on. And the next item on the agenda is the reading of the mission statement. I know that's been a topic of some discussion, but I think since we haven't decided not to do it, I think perhaps someone should. Does anyone have it readily at hand? Be able to read it?
I can share screen.
Okay. And would anyone like to volunteer to read it?
This is Tina. I can read it.
Thank you, Tina.
The mission statement of the Rhode Island Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing to provide innovative leadership and public policy advocacy, service delivery, and accessibility throughout the Ocean State. CDHH ensures opportunities for every deaf and hard of hearing person to become empowered and a contributing citizen.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina. All right, now the next item on the agenda is the meeting minutes from our last meeting, and I actually don't have a copy, so I'm wondering if Bethany, can you screen share that for us so that we can read and perhaps approve it?
I can. Give me one moment, please.
Thank you. I'm seeing myself, but I am not seeing the minutes.
I'm having issues securing the minutes. Give me one moment.
Thank you. Ah. Great. Can we all take a moment and please review them?
Shall I close the screen share?
Is everyone satisfied that they have had enough time to read the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any corrections or amendments to the minutes?
This is Tim. They look good, except for one thing. It should, I think that if it's more
You
of
should
a,
capitalize ocean.
it should be capitalized. If it's kind of a minimal thing, like maybe a typographical, but if it could be changed, the word ocean side chat, that should be capitalized, the word oceanside and you know, because it'll be a series, an ongoing series. I think I just got spotlit. Now I'm confused where we are. So I went back to gallery just to make sure that I'm being clear. When it oceanside chat, if that could just be corrected, it's more of a typographical thing, but if both words could be capitalized, because it'll be an ongoing series.
See, yes? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll go ahead and do that before I finalize them. And there's a slash missing between deaf blind. There's a couple little typos. I think the oceanside chat and the slash that's missing, but I'll go ahead and correct those two things.
And this is Tim. People tend to say deaf blind as one word. It can be all spelled together, but the B is capitalized. So the two words run together with no slash, but capital DEAF, capital BLIND.
Okay, so I have one that's right, and I'll correct all the other ones and take the slashes out. It's good to know.
And does anyone else have any corrections or additions? Okay, in that case, would someone like to make a motion to accept the minutes with the grammatical and capitalization fixes?
I'll make a motion. This is Tina. Make a motion that we accept the minutes with just a couple of typographical edits.
Would anyone else like to second?
I'll second.
We have both Drew and Betsy, so. Betsy, you want to go ahead and second?
Yeah,
All right. And we take a vote, thumbs up, if we accept the meetings as the minutes from that meeting as we just discussed. Cameras on. I don't see everybody, but I don't see Brett, but I'm assuming everybody has their thumbs up. Okay. All right. The meeting minutes passed. Thank you very much. Now, before we get to item number 5, I do have a question for Ernest, who I hope is not frozen. Isn't this typically the time that we ask the public if they have any questions or comments? It is not on our agenda, but I just want to check in with that.
This is Ernest.
Shall I repeat my question?
Ernest is saying, my computer has been having trouble. It keeps on freezing. And so I was having, I don't know whether I should do my report at this point or what.
So, Ernest, I think it's not yet time for your report. We've finished the meeting minutes. We're about to do item number 5 on the agenda. We'll,
Yes, it would be public comments. It would be before the meeting minutes. It was number 3 on mine.
my mistake. So can we,
No
my
problem.
apologies, and put it in after we finish the meeting minutes. So can we now do public comments?
Ernest is saying, sorry, Ernest was saying we could do it later on, or we can go back to it. I know last meeting we did discuss it, having it later so that people could hear more of the reports before they comment on it. So we could ask the audience which they prefer.
Why don't we do that? Let's ask the audience if they would like to make comments now or later in the meeting.
Heather Nabala has her hand raised.
Okay. Heather? Would you like to say something?
Yes, this is Heather. Hello. I don't have a comment, but I was trying to type in the chat and it's only allowing me to type to Bethany or Ernest. So what I would like to do would be to get permission to be able to use the chat so that I can send out chats to everyone or to other people.
In previous meetings, we have been told that chat is part of public comment. And so that is why it's restricted to co-host and host.
So Heather, does that answer your question?
So if I want to make a comment, I should open my video. Is that the point then?
The initial question is, if you'd like, would you like to make a comment now? Or would you like to wait until later in the session to be able to make a comment? And at either time, yes, you would be opening your video.
Thank you. I think people are confused about the ability to be able to make a comment or chat. Because if we're raising our hand or we want to say something, we don't want to interrupt the process of the commissioners, but we still want to be able to participate. So that was the issue for me, and I think other people. And this is Ernest saying, Heather, your concern, I'd like to respond to. As far as the chat, it is considered a public comment. So you can obviously write to the chair, but Kimmy's not here, Kimmy Marthers. So Caroline is taking, running the meeting. And if you had a chat comment, you could send it to Caroline. And if she sees it, she could speak it, and then we'd have interpreters. So anything that you want to say, you could direct it to Caroline. If it comes to me or Bethany, we will make sure that those comments are recognized. We can either ask you to open your video. And there's also the reaction, the hand icon that you can raise that's at the bottom of the screen. And then we know that you want to speak. But you can direct any of your chat to Caroline Obrecht, since she is running the meeting as host. So you should not be restricted there. You should be all right. Heather's saying, great, thank you. This is Amy. I do want to clarify myself. At the last meeting, we talked about public comments after Ernest's report. So I know we discussed it, and I just want to clarify now whether we are planning to have the public comments now or whether we're going to have them later in the meeting. We had discussed it last meeting.
I think what we're asking is, would you prefer to have them now, or would you rather do it after Ernest's report? Bethany?
I actually remember that there was an idea floating around that there would be, am I wrong with that there was 2 sections of public comment, one at the beginning, one at the end? Did I imagine that?
I think that we had a general discussion, and that was one of the options. I don't think that we necessarily chose anything at that point. So if it's okay with the audience, what I would like to propose is that we continue on to item number 5, which is actually the Innovate strategy plan for the commission, then have Ernest's report, and then we would have public comments or questions. Unless there's an objection to that, that is my suggestion. Everything is quiet. Am I assuming that's can I assume that's acceptance? Okay, in the absence of any comments, then I'm going to suggest that we move on to number 5, the Innovate Strategy Plan for the Rhode Island Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And the goal is to choose our retreat planning dates and times. Ernest, do you have any thoughts on that?
Ernest is stating that he's still having issues with his PC. I do have dates that were to be part of a doodle poll that I did send to Ernest and Kimmy. It does not look like there were responses. I don't know if it was communicated. I can give you those dates if you would prefer, Caroline, for voting.
That would be helpful. I think that would be helpful. Thank you. Yes, if we could have those.
Okay, so the dates are May 7th, Saturday, May 7th, 9 to 4 p.m. May 21st, 9 to 4 p.m. June 4th, 9 to 4 p.m. or June 18th, 9 to 4 p.m.
So the last date was June 18th.
Yes, yes.
Any discussion from the commissioners on those possible dates?
Hi, yes, I would like to clarify. You want us to pick one date? They're all on Saturdays, is that correct?
Yes.
The 7th, 14th, and so forth, correct? So
Yes.
pick one of those dates.
Yes.
Because I was wondering, it might be easier because you gave us all these dates. I'm not sure if possible, but could we pull them up on the screen? Or perhaps we could put them out on the chat so we can look them over and then discuss it and pick a date. Would that work? Just because you gave us so many dates right now. And so again, I think that would be beneficial.
I think that's a very good suggestion. Would everybody like to see them on the screen?
Yes, please.
And
Okay,
Caroline, Bethany is putting them in the chat.
okay. Not seeing that. Oh, yes, I am. Okay. So I don't know how to put that on the screen, but I know how to say it slowly. Oh, there we go. There's the screen. Has everyone reviewed them?
Would you like me to close screen share?
Yes, please. I would like to make a suggestion. Would it be possible to send them out as a doodle to all the commissioners and Kimmy and everybody else so that we can consult with our families, because it is a weekend,
Yeah.
families and partners, and see if these dates work for each of us. I know it means a little more time, but I think it's a better idea than just a few of us deciding tonight for others.
Right.
Betsy?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing because we have people absent. I think we need to do a doodle.
I believe Boomy just joined us. Welcome, Boomy. So Ernest, do we need to vote on sending this out as a doodle, or can we just go ahead with that plan? And are you still frozen?
It appears he's still having technical difficulties. I did just email that to all of you.
Can I confer with my esteemed colleague, Tim, and ask if we need to take a vote on this?
Hello, are you asking me?
I'm
So-
asking Tim Riker if we need to vote on this, or can we just agree that it will be sent out as a doodle poll?
I would suggest, because several people are not able to be here tonight, Kimmy's not here as well, so perhaps we could do the doodle. That way that all of the people could pick a date that is best for them to have the most participants involved.
Okay. And we don't need to vote on that. Is that accurate?
You can use email for the purposes of scheduling, that's fine. You can send that out, the schedule, and we can agree upon the date and time.
All right. So we will be sending out dates that we've mentioned to all the commissioners and anyone who would be invited to this meeting. And then we will await their responses. Thank you. Yes, Tina.
Actually, Bethany already sent it to all of us. Melvin
Everybody,
replied.
even people who aren't
Just
here,
got the email. Yeah.
even people who are, oh, thank you. Wow. The magic of technology. Okay, so I'm done with item number 5. I'm very much hoping that Ernest can provide us with his director's report. Ernest, are you available?
Drew has a comment.
Okay, Drew, sorry.
I wanted to clarify, I think that we need to discuss, I just wanted to make sure that we all remember correctly, the retreat will be in person, correct? Because we need to have the extension, the virtual line in March. And so once we graduate in person, then we transition to virtual or I'm sorry, or do we need to pick that date prior to that?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. So are you asking if the retreat will be virtual or in person?
Yes, is it virtual or in person? I just wanted to make sure, just so that, you know, with COVID and that extending till March 31st. So are we able to gather in person, or is it going to be online for that retreat?
I believe,
Ernest speaking.
oh, good, let's have Ernest answer that.
Yes, I would like to respond to Drew, your question about the retreat, whether it's in person or if it's going to be a virtual meeting. I was discussing that with Shane with the innovative strategic planning, and they prefer in person to get together to be able to discuss, because virtually that's not the best. The goal would be to be in person so that you can all have a, you know, hands-on approach, and we need to agree with that time and that place so that we can find a location in June. We do want that to be in person to have these conversations. We just feel like virtual, there's a disconnect. And so that's what we have decided. Now, if the governor, they extend that further with the mandates, we'll have to see with that. But from my understanding, Shane wants it to be in person irregardless. So I will have to discuss that with Shane again to see if the idea of virtual might have to happen if it is extended, but we will follow up with you all at the next commissioners meeting. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Ernest, are you able to give us your executive director report?
Yes, let me go ahead and do that just because my computer was freezing and going back and forth. It's so odd, but I transferred to a new one. So please bear with me as I go through the technology and the difficulties it presents. All right, so now the update about COVID and the pandemic. With the vaccines, it does seem that we're transferring more for people to doctor's appointment, to a private service, to any drugstore, CVS, Walgreens, and so forth. And so as we transition to that, we will not have those clinics here because it's just time to transfer that back to the physicians and other locations. If you want to get a test or a shot, you can go to one of those listed, or what I've just said, stated locations. I know that Bear's here and can support with comments, and they can explain more about that. Next, we do know that we had the open meeting where the deadline was supposed to be Friday, but our governor has decided to extend that to March 31st. So I am able to continue with the virtual meetings just like this until March 31st. And after that time, we are unsure of what it will look like. Just with COVID, it's not officially done and gone. It is still here. We are still in the state of a pandemic. And so it is not going to be 100% over with. And so we're not sure if we're going to have to remain virtual or in person after the March 31st date. So we will keep an eye on that. And I will inform you all in advance. I did want to let you all know that our governor, he is over the state building. No more, mask mandates are no longer mandated in government facility. I think that started 2 weeks ago. And so if you all enter any state building, you do not have to wear a mask. If you do feel a little bit unsure about it, you are able to wear a mask, but overall, the general public, there is no mandate for masks. That has been dropped. We still are working with Office of the Governor's Press Conference. We're working with them to make sure that it's accessible, that they have an interpreter, that they are ready with the caption. We are working with them. I know that just recently they told us last minute, and so we're trying to tell them they had to inform us in advance so we can gather all these things together. The governor, their plans, everything, I'm still waiting on that. I am still reminding them that we need that information. And so if there's a press conference, that we would be ready. We would look for an interpreter to have for that. I know sometimes they move forward and then they let me know the day of, and that is not going to work for us. Maybe a week in advance. I would need that to have time to set up the interpreter. So really, it is still a challenge. I am on top of them about this because the community, the deaf community, needs access. Bear, would you mind adding anything along COVID, what's been going on since? I'll go ahead and decrease my screen. Hello, Ernest. You really explained it all. I would like to add one more point. The commissioner, the public, I don't know if you've seen the news, but the CDC, they just announced 2 weeks ago that they have changed how they're measuring the COVID spread, the COVID transmission. And so all along it's been watching the different cases, the number of cases, the positive cases coming up, the minimum of 7 days. They've been doing that. And now it has been changed to more on a community level basis. So now, what's it called? Instead of using, it's not daily cases, it's the county level. Are they low, medium, or high? And by watching the number of hospitalization and beds, how many new people are admitted to the hospital, and how many beds are already taken because of a COVID positive case, they're focusing more on the hospital beds now. And that is able to give the hospital time to prepare in advance if it's going to increase or decrease with numbers. It is a little complicated, but I will sign this tomorrow and send it out to the community with the information all in one place. Rhode Island's community is small. There's only 5 counties here. So it's very easy to click on that to find the information if it's low, medium, or high. Basically low, medium, and high. Oh, excuse me, low and medium, there's no masks. Unless you're immunocompromised, you're at high risk. So they do suggest still wearing a mask if it is medium. High would mean a mask is mandated for everyone indoors. That's basically it. I wanted to put that out to you all, and I will follow up with the public by this Friday. All right, Ernest, thank you. Thank you for that message. All right, so I am working with the Resource Center to focus on
The Helen Keller National Center.
Thank you. The Helen Keller National Center for that FIGHT program for adults, deaf, blind. That is our goal, to have that set up and established. I do want to set that up now. I'm ready, but we do need to take it step by step to ensure that we are prepared, that we are ready, that we understand truly what is the need in the deaf-blind community, and that we want the deaf-blind community involved. We need their input. We need to learn from them and partner with them. So we do need them to be an advocate for this program. We can't set it up without them being involved, without that knowledge of what's going on. We don't want to see that, to set it up and then after 2 or 3 years, it completely falls apart. And so we want to see this in it for the long run. Therefore, what we are doing, the next step is March 25th. And we will have a deaf-blind training for the commissioner staff and for the deaf-blind
Stakeholders.
And it's in person. If you would like to join, you want to learn more about the deaf-blind community, please contact me. We will send an invite for that. We would be thrilled. We are thrilled because we have 3 people joining the training from the Deaf Inc. and deaf-blind community in the action.
DBCAN, the Deaf-Blind Community Access Network.
And we have the director, 2 directors. The first one will be retiring soon, and the other director will be taking over that position. They both will come for that training to train us. Very excited about that. And HKNC, they will come and explain what the terminology means, Usher syndrome, deaf-blind, different kind of visual aids or vision, anything relating to that and those terminologies that we do need to learn. And so the directors will train us on that, and I'm looking forward to it.
And this is all related to the SSP program that we're trying to pilot.
Oh, and it did freeze for 1 second, Ernest was saying. So they will come train us how to use the different methods of communication and interaction, and really it's going to be wonderful. I encourage you all to join in that. And then May 13th, we will host a deaf-blind event at Warwick Public Library. The time is 1 to 3. And so please come to that. We have it. We can set up transportation for the deaf-blind, for the stakeholders to be able to come, set up tables, to be able to talk with you all about what deaf-blind is and their resources and how to help their needs and so forth. And so we will host that again May 13th at Warwick Public Library. It's in the center beach. Warwick. That's a central branch, a big library. So we will host it there again. A big community room, or excuse me, conference room. So when you enter in, just turn, then it'll be right there, and we will have signs set up so you know how to find it. It'll be easy for you all. We're going to swap interpreters 1 second.
Yeah, Ernest, I just have a question. The training on March 25th, can you tell me how?
If we can wait
Wow.
one moment, we need the interpreter, the CDI, to come on screen.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Thank you.
So, Ernest, my question is the training on the 25th of March. Can you tell me what the hours of that training are and where it's going to be held?
It's 2 to 4, and that'll be by Zoom. That's all virtual.
Okay.
And if the commissioners are interested, please be in touch and we'll send you information directly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Should I continue with my report then?
Please.
So one of the strategic goals is to outreach to the community more and to make sure that we build relationships with different state agencies, different stakeholders, to make sure that we're in partnership that betters life for deaf, hard of hearing, deaf, blind people and empowers people. The first thing that I feel here, we have the program director, Pamela Zellner, and she's been working on the 30th anniversary. And we've been having these Oceanside chat. And we just had Bruce Bucci, who was one of the first, one of the commissioners chair for the commission. And Pam interviewed him, and that's already gone out. There's a vlog. It's wonderful. He's got such rich level of experience. So we're going to continue to do that with different past chairs of the commission. I think there's 9 or 10. And we'll keep going. So Bruce Bucci was the first, and obviously Kimmy is the newest, having just taken over the reins from Tim Riker. So we'll be announcing the different chairs of the commission's board and our interviews throughout this 30th anniversary year. And then we have these Oceanside chats. We're having different leaders, and we're working maybe 45 minutes or an hour with them, 10 or 15 minutes where we ask them questions. We already have 2 people who have created Oceanside chats for us. And one of them is the director at Deaf Inc. She's Black and deaf herself. And the second one, last week on Friday, I spoke with a person who's been involved with Gallaudet University and higher ed. And she does community relationships at Gallaudet and out in the community as well. She's the president of the Washington, D.C. Black Deaf Advocates, BDA. She's an oral deaf person. She's Black and deaf and oral, but she can sign. She signs for herself. We had a great talk about our experiences. So we're going to be highlighting more BIPOC people in the future, leaders from all over, so that people in Rhode Island can feel inspired and feel like they're being listened to and spoken to and represented. That's been one of the goals that we had on our strategic plan, was outreach specifically to the BIPOC community. And one of the things that we're going to be doing, we're going to be hosting events for deaf blind people. The one I mentioned was May 13th. And there's another event that's going to be occurring. We've been talking about, there are a few commissioners who were concerned about immigrants and refugees who might be deaf, hard of hearing, deaf blind. And we've discussed this. We plan to have an event specifically set up for people who are immigrants or refugees. And we'll work with different state agencies and organizations that are providing services for immigrants, people who need green cards or citizenship, or renewing a visa, learning the public transit system, whatever the issues are that affect, how to get benefits. There's so many different issues involved, and especially for deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf-blind individuals who themselves are immigrants and refugees. So we're going to be working on that event. And I think it's necessary. It's a needed thing at this time. We're looking at June because June is Immigration Appreciation Month. And we thought it would be fitting to recognize people who are of those populations and make people more aware. So we don't have a set date yet. We know it'll be the month of June. There are many state agencies who prefer to have things during the week rather than the weekend during regular business hours. And we will try to work around that schedule. Our goal would be to set up an event for deaf, hard of hearing, deaf blind, who are immigrants and refugees themselves. And we want to find interpreters and certified deaf interpreters who are trilingual, people who can communicate in a spoken foreign language as well as ASL and English. And have them come to be able to communicate with them, because I can't communicate directly with many of these people, so that all of them have communication access. And Ernest's screen just froze. Sorry.
I have texted him to let him know. How would you like to proceed, Caroline?
Well, we're getting close to the time that we typically take a break for our interpreters. So
Ernest,
perhaps, oh, he's back. Oh, he's back.
No. My camera's on. Good. I didn't realize I was on.
Okay.
I'm almost finished with my report. So, and I am having such trouble with these freezing. That's the computer. So I'm going to be working with the commissioners. I want to have the term deaf blind added to our official name, RICDHH. Maybe during the retreat, we could talk about it. I'd like to have it say RICDDBHH. We're going to need to work on our logo, on all of our website information, everything, and it has to go to the legislators. It probably can't be during this session. It'll probably be next year, because they have to give their approval, because we're a state agency. If we do switch to this new terminology with DB embedded in, we used to be, when we talked about DHH, we were trying to figure out where the DB would be. And if it should be RICDHH DB, because people are used to spelling and saying RICDHH. And that might be easier than RICDBHH. That seems very clumsy. So I've gotten that suggestion, and we'll need to discuss it. So we would call it RICDHH DB. And we want to add and include deafblind in everything that we do and then submit that to the legislators. We want community support that the commission should change the name to be inclusive of deafblind participants. And the name change would be significant. We want deafblind people to feel like they're a part of our commission and not excluded or marginalized. So that's something we will discuss. And my final item that I wanted to talk about was trainings for our staff related to diversity and inclusion. Deaf-blind people, BIPOC people. We've been working on various trainings. We already have had 2. Well, the one that we've announced on March 25th. And we have one for April 7th that's going to be all day. I have talked to other trainers and we're hoping that we will have 2 or 3 more so that our staff can participate and be more culturally sensitive for BIPOC people, for people that we interact with, to make sure that we are knowing how to interact with and advocate for people of diverse backgrounds. That's our goal. So that's my report. Thank you so much, Caroline.
Okay. So at this point, we could take a break if that's something that our interpreters would need and appreciate, or we could turn to our visitors and see if this is a good time for them for comments or questions. So my first question is to the interpreters. Would you like a break right now?
So no, we don't need a break, Caroline. Thank you.
Okay. So then can we turn to our visitors and see if if people do have questions, can they turn on their screen, put up their hand, let us know that they have a question and where that question is coming from.
This is Rain. I want to clarify. Are we talking about the public comment period now, or are we having questions specifically about Ernest's report?
We're talking about the public comment now, which might or might not relate back to Ernest's report.
Rain says, I do have a comment, but I also want deaf or hard of hearing or deaf blind people to have the floor first, and then we can circle back to me. And Amy says, I do have a comment. This is Amy Slezak. I wanted to ask Ernest if there are other legislative bills that the commission plans to propose other than the name change. And if yes, what? Because it would be nice to know so that we can prioritize when we do lobbying efforts. And I don't know what else has been proposed in these last 3 years. And I know things are coming up now soon. I'm going to turn off my video and let Ernest answer. Ernest says right now, we do not have any bills in the works. We've been not focusing so much on the legislative since the pandemic, but we are going to start working on more bills. So there's nothing in the pipeline at this point for us to prioritize. We will be working on bills coming up in the near future. The legislative session is wrapping up very soon because it's already spring. And I know that'll be the budget proposals coming to the state coming up within the next couple of weeks for FY23. We'll be working on that with the legislators and Governor McKee. But other than that, we do not have anything in the pipeline. Thank you for the comment though, and reminder to get working on that. What I'm hoping is that we get some idea from the community of what the bills are that could be proposed, what needs to change. We'd like some input and feedback, because the bills in the past, from like 3 or 4 years in the past, have not gone through. They've all failed. And we would like to be able to have something that can be supported by the community so that they can lobby as well, because we need that kind of strength behind us so that we can make sure that it passes and you have a voice with your legislators. And I see Heather Niedballer's hand up. This is Heather. I'll keep it brief because I know that about time, but there needs to be a real important discussion. I'm concerned about
No legislative mandates.
legislative mandates. The agencies that have expressed interest. There's 5 different agencies have advocated for enactment of the legislative bills that relate to deaf and hard of hearing people and deafblind in the community. And I'm concerned that there's been no movement or prioritizing of that, and that we have not followed up. And I feel like it puts the commission itself at risk. Thank you for sharing those concerns with us, Heather. Amy says, I do want to follow up. I'm concerned as well. And I know the community has been trying to express those concerns in the past, and I think they've gotten swept up under the rug and not addressed. And we need to fix that issue. And I'm not sure if there's anything that we as community members can offer you to work with the legislators, but I do feel sometimes we're not heard, and that we'd be willing to support you going forward with the legislators, but we need to have the commission support us as well and our concerns and issues. Ernest is saying thank you for those comments. Yes. Amy, yes, and Heather. I understand those concerns, and most of it is about referral service that I'm hearing comments about, and that's something we've really focused on. People feel like their communication access rights to an interpreter is being hindered. So that is something we've really been looking at, and we haven't looked at some of the more general issues. And it is something we obviously want to meet the needs of the community, whatever the requirements are, so that the community themselves feels like their needs are met and that they're satisfied with our work. But I have to say, we've been working specifically on the referral service because we have gotten so many comments about that. But thank you, as always, for the reminder to look broader. This is Rain. If no one else has raised their hand, then I will take the turn. One of the items I wanted to talk about has already been brought up during Ernest's report, I believe, related to press conferences for COVID. Not only COVID, but also other natural disasters, weather, hurricanes, anything that might happen. The climate change crisis obviously is going to start impacting us more and more. And there's going to be a lot of reasons that the more demand of those kind of press conferences, just because of what's happening in the world. And in the past, I'd say 2 years ago, when we started this pandemic, there was a lot of discussion and recommendations to the commission, to the commissioners of the Rhode Island Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And you and I, Ernest, spoke quite a bit, and I spoke with several people about how we could do more planning system-wide to build an actual structure for the kind of last minute need for a press conference or an announcement or emergency. You know, we've had communication with the governor's office, and now you're saying that they were asking for our interpreters last minute, a day or two before. And we know Rhode Island, we do not have a large pool of interpreters here, and it's a critical issue. There's a critical shortage. And that means we cannot fill our regular assignments, never mind an emergency last minute assignment. And the people for the press conferences also need to be specially trained and have experience. And best practice would be to bring in a certified deaf interpreter. To have an ASL interpreter and a DI both available, that is very difficult. And how many deaf interpreters are in Rhode Island? Almost none. One or two. So we bring in people from other states. Now, what other states are doing is they provide training. They create a system where there's a pool of people who are available. And if there's a predictable situation happening, like a weather incident or something is happening newsworthy within COVID, let's say, then we know a press conference might be coming up, and we can always book a slot for the interpreters. And then those interpreters could be used for something else. We could negotiate that. They would be paid for their time. And if the press conference doesn't happen, then they could be used for something else. And that could be connected to this conversation that you're talking about approaching the legislature with, because that money could be set aside, and there could be an amount of money where if we had plenty of interpreters, like in other states, they might actually have sufficient number of interpreters. They are still having a difficulty. Very often they'll book interpreters for a half day or a full day, and or they'll have them on contract under the commission, let's say directly, so that those people could also come and do regular work, let's say in-house with the interpreters working with Ernest or with other people. And then if those people are available, they can be used for a variety of different things. So these are some ideas we talked about way back. And what I feel like is it's important to revisit that. And what has been happening in the last 2 years, we have not had enough interpreters for press conferences. In the most recent time, I think early on in the pandemic, we had more, but we need a more permanent solution because we're noticing it really falling off. And when I hear people in the community, deaf people in the community being disappointed because they don't know what's happening, they're missing out, they don't know what's going on in the news, they're misunderstanding information. Like the situation right now with Ukraine and Russia, deaf people do not understand, and it's very scary. But with COVID, their health information, their health access is suffering because they're getting information so subpar, and that's a huge concern. And there are some solutions we could pull from other states and other models. And we could have a consulting with some other places that have had successes who could give us some examples. But I just think that this should be something that is brought to the commission's attention. And this is, I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but this is a related point with the lack of interpreters in Rhode Island, and especially legally qualified interpreters. We're going to have 0 soon in Rhode Island. They all come from other states, except for one, basically. And the people who are available in any given day are almost 0. So we need to have, what I'm asking for the commission is we need to work on a plan for that going forward. Those are my comments. Thank you for your time. And we're going to switch interpreters.
This is Tim. I was wondering if people are finished with comments, can we have a short break? Thank you.
Are people finished with comments so that we could have this short break?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So it is currently 7:14. So can we come back at 7:20 to make it a truly short break? Okay, thank you, everyone. I will see you all at 7:20. Okay, if you're back, can you turn on your cameras? Again, can people turn on their cameras? Okay, I think we're ready to resume at, oh, not too bad. 7:23. So at this point, are the interpreters ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Yep.
Okay. So we're moving to item number 8 on our agenda, which are the committee reports. So I'm hoping that somebody from the Employment Committee is ready to give their report. Although I notice on the agenda, it says their next meeting is to be announced. So I assume there's nothing to report. Betsy, is that accurate?
Yeah, we have a meeting sometime next week. I'll put the exact date in the minutes when I have to look it up.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Thank you. And then we have the Tech Access and Telecommunications Relay Services Committee. I note that their next meeting is April 21st, and they have no report at this time. Do we have anybody from that committee?
We did vote on a new chairperson and a new secretary, but the meeting is April 21st at 10 o'clock. So there is no report for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, we have the Healthcare Committee. And Brett, I believe you're still here. So are you able to give us a committee report from the Healthcare Committee?
Hi, yeah, I'm just pulling up. I don't know if Christine's here, but Christine shared with me a summary of where we stood with the HFTP projects. Bear with me, I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, so basically, earlier this week, Christine came back and just talked about how the project team is right now, they're focusing on the final consolidated report to explain all of the deliverables that they completed and all of the training that will be available And she wanted to add that this final report will include a roadmap with future work in focusing on grant towards more data mining for the healthcare projects. And then she also mentioned that in partnership with the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, the HSTP staff presented to the Healthcare Accountable Entity Advisory Committee back on February 22nd. And they said that their presentation was well received, and they felt like they got a lot of good feedback, and it was really instrumental in sharing the virtual training series for healthcare professionals that was created by the project team. They felt that they had good progress there. And they also mentioned that they're working with the Department of Health to include a spotlight series on deaf healthcare professionals, and also include that virtual training series for healthcare professionals to be available online, so that way public health officials all around the state can be able to access the training. And lastly, for the Public Health and Equity Sign Language Interpreting Program, they just had their first round of cohort of participants. They're actually starting to put together a second round that will be slated for mid-August of 2022. And an announcement should be coming out in the next month. They're feeling very motivated in their program since it started last summer. So that's really good to hear, especially given the subsidy around an interpreter training development program. And that's really some of the main points that she covered in her summary. And but at the end of the day, the biggest thing is that they're focusing on putting together the final consolidated report. And that's all I had. We haven't had a meeting recently, and we're kind of waiting on the announcement whether we want to meet virtually or not, depending on the team, how they feel about it. So right now, TBD, no new other update.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you very much. I just want to interject a quick note, which is that, of course, we only have the interpreters until 8. So I'm doing my best to keep us mindful of the time. And I appreciate everybody's concise
Oh, okay.
reports. And no, you were great, Brett. You were great. Well, we do have another committee report or two. I just want to note that we will not be interviewing an applicant for a commissioner's seat because that person was not able to attend this evening. So moving on, can we hear from someone from the Education Committee? Pam?
Yes, the Educational Committee really does not have a new report at this time, but we should be having a meeting soon. I understand that Nancy, she's the chair, but
Nancy McGuire Heath.
thank you. She had surgery or something, but she is back, but has not yet set that meeting date.
Thank you, Tim. And lastly, we have the Ad Hoc Referral Committee, and we're hoping to have Chairperson Debbie Katz report about the status of the Ad Hoc Committee.
Thank you. I'm Rain. I'll give you a brief report. So we have still, the committee has still been struggling with a few barriers, the same barriers that we've had all along. They have not been resolved. Those two things I have already, I think it was back October, I had already finished asking the commission in the report for these two things, one of which is support our request for ADA accommodations for ongoing remote meetings. I have not heard a yay or nay about that. So the second thing I would like to ask, or I did ask, and I've been asking, was, sorry, I lost my train of thought. One moment. Originally, the committee, they gave, potential maybe 6 to 12 months range. But ever since it was not clear, what is it extended or why is it taking so long? And we missed some months because of financial reasons. There was cancellation because there was no funds for interpreters. 1 month, I think it was June. And then another reason because we could not meet in person. There was the executive order that had lapsed. And so they told us last minute. So we missed that month. Really, there have been many barriers to these meetings. So it's obvious to our committee that we cannot meet in person because we do not have many members. Many of the members cannot meet in person because of various reasons. We do have to make accommodations under ADA. Also, the community members at Rhode, they've been meeting in person. They never have a community member join, not even one, all along. Remotely, almost 100% of the time, we do have community members participating in that. The last meeting, we just had several community members who were involved with that. And really, we focused on, we had a short agenda. We thought a short agenda for a meeting, but it really turned to the discussion. The people are giving feedback and wanting to talk about certain things. And we had a really hot discussion. It was really wonderful to have that. And many of those people cannot meet in person. For the same reasons, because they qualify under ADA accommodations. So I do wanted to add a little bit more information from what we've seen. That system, that barrier has been in all along. And then the extension, we did ask, I think it was last October, we did ask for an extension for a minimum of 12 months total. I did not hear anything about that. So the committee themselves have always asked me, but I have to tell them, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you. I haven't heard anything. And some people do feel a little uncertain and they're not sure if we are able to finish our work or what's really happening. And so they're, I wanted to share that we haven't had an answer and how that has impacted the committee. Moving on, right now, we are focusing on two things, or two areas rather. One of which is the committee themselves voted to decide to to request the ADA accommodations. We have to go above RICHH and the commission. We have to go above them because we were told no, RICHH told us no, and then the commissioners did not give us an answer. So we did vote to escalate it, to have to move it beyond them and to write a letter, an official letter. That was one area. And then the other area, we have already received different issues that have been identified all along with referral. And so we gathered all of those and some ideas, some recommendations. And currently we do have 2 working groups of 3 people in each. One person is on the committee has not been joining all along. So only 6 people are active in that. 1 is not active. So 3 and 3 are involved. Each group, they focus on 2 things I just mentioned, the ADA accommodation letter. The second thing, the issues that have been identified and listed, trying to look for the pattern and seeing that repeat over and over to try to identify where that is. If something happens once or if it's many times that it's occurring. And then recommendations. The next meeting, we will announce the date. We have not done that yet. We have not decided, but it will be before March 31st. The plan is to focus on all of the information that we've gathered, those working groups, presenting that, and compiling a letter to present, and then beginning the process of listing the issues and recommending possible solutions. So that will take time. We have been collecting them. It took time, and now we will focus on compiling them, and we will start that sometime. And that's where we are right now. I am happy to accept any questions if there are any.
Does anyone have any questions for Rain?
I have a question for one of the members that has never been showing up. Was it a representative or was it a person, or which organization? Yes, thank you. So I did share in the past report as well. It's the same person. They're sent from RIAD. Jen Baloney. In the beginning, they were joining, and we've tried to reach out to them. There's been no contact. And then finally, it was several months ago, they responded to me one time, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I will participate." And we have not seen them participate since. I have included her. She's still in the group email, but there's been no response. Did that answer your question, Tim? Tim is saying, I do have a follow-up question. I do know that the Commission on Disability, or excuse me, the Committee on Disability, GDC, they are trying to collect feedback related to the meetings and concerns about meeting in person. I was wondering, have you tried to contact to share your concern? Have you tried to contact them, and have they given you a response? This is Rain. Yes, thank you. I am aware of GCD. Yes, I have tried to contact them and reach out, but I have not received a response. Maybe someone gave me a different contact number, and I tried that and still haven't received a response. So I'm not sure if there's another person to contact there. I'm not sure if there's a third way to get a hold of them, but I'm happy to accept that information. Tim is saying, sure, I know that it is a challenging time for many in this COVID pandemic and trying to do our best. And now we're able to meet remote, but it's always seeing these delays. And working with ADA, it's a bit of a challenge because it conflicts with the Open Meeting Act. And so these two things, the Open Meeting Act does have one part of it that is in regards to disabilities, but it's always been a challenge. So really that whole commission, you're not alone. There are other groups that are concerned as well. It has been a challenge that we've seen. And so I am hoping that it gets figured out. Thank you for all you've done in regards to that.
I would like to second that. And just, I don't know who you've tried to reach at the Governor's Commission on Disabilities, but Bob Cooper's always been a good person to try to reach. And I've been doing this for a long time, and anecdotally, the way it was explained to me was that disabilities involving mobility were honored and others were not. So that is, you're right, a huge barrier. So I applaud your efforts in trying to get them to broaden their vision. Thank you. Okay, that is the end of our
Swap interpreters, one moment, please.
course.
And Caroline, we're all set.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the end of our committee reports. Under,
Mike Bear has his hand up.
okay, sorry, Mike. Yes, go ahead.
Mike is saying, thank you, Caroline. I did want to ask a question to Rain about the report that was just given. And I'm not involved with what's happening with interpreter referral and the ad hoc committee. My plate is full, obviously, with other things, but I'm always fascinated in the process and how things have moved ahead. And it's a little foggy how things are getting. You don't have to answer me, but how I'm getting the information. You're talking about barriers. And what is your committee's experience that might be different from the other committees? Because the other 4 committees do meet, they have interpreters. And during COVID, they met remotely. But it seems like there's an issue with the ad hoc committee. And if you could, I don't know if this is the right place to talk about it. And if not, I'll withdraw my question. But I would like to understand better. And then I could help maybe with the process. It just feels like this is so important to talk about referral. And I'd like to find out what the hindrance is. And also I'm aware, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to understand it. And if this is not the appropriate place, I can sit and talk to Ernest about that and he can help me understand more. So I don't feel good about hearing what's happening. That does not sit right with me. It feels unfortunate. It's a huge waste of people's time. And when I'm listening to you, I'm like, what is going on? Help me get it so that I can help advocate. So this is Rain. Thank you, Mike, for asking that question. There are many factors involved that are causing those barriers, and that has been so since the very beginning. I am not on other committees myself, so it's hard for me to compare our experience with the other ones. They might look similar, but perhaps nobody on those committees are complaining. That could be. Maybe they have a similar experience, they're just not speaking up. I'm representing, as the chair of my committee, I'm representing my committee and the issues that are being voiced there. So that could be one thing. Maybe there's similar issues and we just don't know. And it would be worth maybe me doing a little homework to finding out what those other committees' experiences are. What I would say is Mike is saying, you do not have to answer if that's not, I can talk with Ernest myself. I'd like to get, just a fuller conversation going about that, just to get me to understand, Mike is saying. No, I do appreciate your question, Rain is saying, because I know it comes from a good place. You want to provide support, you want to know what's happening, and if there's some way to improve the situation. So I'm not saying I don't want to answer. What I'm trying to say is I'd like to explain it, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. I like coming here to this commission meeting with specific, keep it brief, and to the point, because I know there's a lot going on your agenda here. So we have been asking for what we need. Like, I have come forward many times with these two issues and I've not gotten an answer. That's a barrier. Okay, Mike is saying, I understand. And Rain is saying that is one example. And I do know that Tina Nelson is on your committee. Is that correct? Has Tina been any assistance to you in this matter? Because she is a liaison to the commission. Rain is saying yes. We, including Tina, have asked have asked the commission as a whole to please, write a letter to help advocate for us that we could be, that at least the issue is being recognized and get support for that. And that hasn't happened, Mike is saying, not from the general commission, no. So that is one example. And there are other things, like there are we're a new committee, relatively, the ad hoc committee, and there's a lot of kind of subtext, interpersonal things that are going on. We formed to provide critique to the referral service. I know that. So that's a little challenging because we're having growing pains and our role. People need to people are becoming a little uncomfortable if we're adversarial. And that's the best answer I can give at this point, and hopefully that helps. And Mike is saying, thank you so much. And I don't want to take time so late in the meeting, and I know the commissioner's time is valuable, so thank you. And I'll take this offline. Well, one thing I do want to say is if I'm all set, Mike is saying, he's teasing me, Rain is saying. Okay, so one thing I do want to say is if anybody listening or watching this now wants to know more about the process we've been going through and what's happening and wants to ask me questions, it's a public meeting. So please contact me as the chair of that committee outside of this meeting. Not you, perhaps only Mike, but other people too. Anybody is willing to, anybody can do that. I also think maybe I should show up at your meeting just to be kind of a fly on the wall. Mike is saying, you're welcome, Rain. Yes. And that might help me, instead of us, going around in circles, we could move things forward. So I will sign off here, but thank you. Come, you're welcome. And thank you, Caroline, for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for all the good work that you're doing, both of you. Are we switching interpreters?
We're good.
Oh, good. All right. So our unfinished business was to review our applicant's application form, but I think we need to defer that until our next meeting, when I hope this person is able to join us. And so we will obviously not be interviewing this person. So we move down to new business. I see that it looks as if there's nothing new, but perhaps I'm wrong. Is there any new business to be discussed? Anybody? Okay,
This
and
is,
then yeah, sorry.
this is Tim. He's saying, as far as new business, we always put it on the agenda, kind of to hold the spot. The one thing I haven't said, we're supposed to announce any specific items 48 hours before, according to Open Meeting Act, and we haven't done so. So we couldn't list the actual item.
Okay, thank you. So in that event, I don't quite know what we do with announcements. We can't list announcements in advance, but if anybody has any, I would certainly like to hear them. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone very much for coming and for putting up with your last minute person running the meeting. Thank you for all your help from everyone who helped me. And I'm going to call this meeting finished at 7:51. So everybody go out and have a nice evening. Thank you. You put on your camera so we can say goodbye.
Good job, Caroline. Thank you.
Yeah, right.